Hello and welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scout. This week we will be continuing with our series of team reveals. And my name is Joe and today I'm joined by Andy, aka FPL Mode on Twitter. And also you will be a familiar face to everyone through your Euros coverage. Andy, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm excited to get talking about FPL actually because obviously we were looking at the Euros all the way through the summer and that ended in heartbreak. But not so much for me because I did manage to beat Az by a point in the game, so that's not too bad. But yeah, no, really excited to start talking about FPL again now.
Indeed. So this is a plus already because I can hear you. I interviewed Neil earlier this week and he had a few sound problems. So thanks for everyone who bear with us with that. But fascinating seeing his team. And it's fascinating seeing everyone else's team this week. And we'll look at some of the players, some of the rationale behind it, and your strategy. So let's get in. Let's just get in, stuck in with your team. Here it
Lovely.
is. There we go. So I'll read it out quickly, and then we're just going to go into it in a bit of detail.
Sounds good.
You got Martinez in goal. You got Alexander-Arnold, Kufal, and Dunk in a 3-4-3 with Rafinha, Fernandez, Salah, Smith Rowe, and then you got Watkins, Tony, and Antonio. And on your bench you got Foster, but as we were talking about on air, he's actually Jed Steer. But essentially it's a 4.0 non-playing goalkeeper. You got Ben White of Brighton, but soon to be Arsenal. So he's about to have a little Arsenal shirt on him. Luke Ayling, who rotates really well with Brighton defender. So we'll come to that in a minute because Ben White's no longer going to be a Brighton defender. Of course Harrison from Leeds, who was fantastic and is a bit cheaper than Rafinha. So let's start with the back and we'll sort of move forwards. Goalkeeper strategy.
Yeah, lovely.
Martinez and his non-playing deputy. What's the rationale with that? Is it just Martinez so good, set and forget, don't bother with rotation?
Yeah, so basically I want to try and make as little decisions as possible every week. So with a set and forget keeper and a set and forget keeper of the caliber of Martinez as well, I think that's something where he could potentially be my keeper for the rest of the season. So I love the fact that he keeps Villa in games. They still concede shots, but he has the opportunity to make saves. He will keep clean sheets. I think they kept 16 clean sheets last season. So for me, I think he's got a pretty high floor every week. They've got nice fixtures to start with as well. Everything I'm looking at is thinking, yes, he's a great choice. Yes, he's 5.5 million and people don't usually like spending a lot of money on that. But I think if you're spending that amount of money and you have such a high floor as he does, I think it's worth the money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I tried it last season, but I did it with a rubbish goalkeeper as such. So I did it with Matt Ryan at Brighton. And I think if you are going to do this, do it with a proper goalkeeper. The thing with Matt Ryan is he was actually a bit of a hindrance to Brighton. Brighton did end up keeping clean sheets. So I've seen quite a few people with Sanchez, and they're gonna look at his backup as well. Or in my current draft, I've got a couple of 4.5s because I'm not sure what I want to do. So I've got Bachmann and Sanchez together there, but I don't disagree with a bit of Martinez because he is what he is. My only caveat with him in game weeks 1 to 3, he's brilliant. Game weeks 4, Villa's fixtures drop off a cliff. So what are you going to do then? You're just going to ride it out, hope you get saves?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're spending that amount of money on a keeper, you have to ride it through those tougher fixtures. And there's no reason to think that actually Villa can't keep the odd clean sheet of that, or like you said, he's going to get the odd save and things like that as well. So I'm quite happy to ride it through that. I think if I'm picking Martinez, I've got to ride it through. I'm not picking rotating goalkeepers for the reason that I don't want to be making the wrong decisions. Martinez is just going to be my keeper the way through, and then see how it goes until I inevitably wildcard in like game week 4 or 5. So
yeah, definitely. So apologies for people there. I'm just getting my fan on. My computer's overheating a little bit because of the hot weather. So me and Andy are sweltering here. Let's move on to your defence. I like this. You've got 3 at the back. Alexander-Arnold. I'm not going to dwell that we know what he's about. But Kufal and Dunk, they look very interesting. And I'm going to put up a picture here. This is I looked at the Rate My Team computer at Fantasy Football Scout, and I filtered it down by 5.0 defenders and below for the first 8 game weeks. And what this showed is that Kufal and Dunk are the best, so according to the computer, which gets gets rid of the sort of personal bias and has a whole range of other things going on there. So yeah, I mean, did you look at this, or why have you gone for them?
Kufal, I really love the way he finished the season. I think he had a great Euros as well, and I look at it and just think Cresswell just seems to be that premium asset in the West Ham defence, and I'm happy to spend 5 million on the gamble that West Ham are going to continue their form into this season. If they're going to do well, they're going to do well at the beginning, because that's before the European commitment starts. And I just feel like he seemed to be getting more forward. He seemed to be getting more chances of assists. And for 5 million, I'm more than happy to take that gamble. Whereas Cresswell, if you're spending that extra money on Cresswell, he's got to do well. Whereas Kufal, I could easily, swap him to another 5 million or trade him down to a 4.5. And he is one of the reasons I've got those 4.5 million playing defenders on the bench, because at least then if they do start badly, I can bring one of those in and maybe not use a transfer if I don't want to. But I just feel he's worth the gamble at 5 million if he carries on that form from the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I like them. Okay, so what have I got to sort of question you about these? Not much really. Both I'm flirting with in my team. Dunk, I think, is worth the extra over the likes of Lamptey. Because of injury concerns, and Dunk is just simply the main man there. Also, Kufal, it offers such value. He looked great in the Euros. He looked great last season, and I think he's been a little underpriced there. So I can't disagree with that as well. Sticking with your defence, you got Ben White and you've got Ayling. Ordinarily, that's a great rotation there. But I guess you can now rotate Dunk and Ayling and Ben White. You've got an Arsenal defender. Have I got the rationale right there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, really. I think I wasn't looking too much at the Brighton Leeds rotation, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm not. Again, it's the same with the keepers. I'm not a massive fan of the rotations, just because you end up getting it wrong. That's all I ever think about those rotations. Ayling, I think, the main thing I've wanted to do with my draft is make sure I've got nailed players that I'm not going to have to worry about too much. Ayling, I know, is going to play. He was overdue an attack and return. Well, through the whole season, wasn't it? He didn't get a goal or an assist. So I feel like maybe this is the season where, all of a sudden it starts coming to fruition for him. Ben White, I've always had a bit of an affinity for Arsenal players, and I feel like a 4.5 million defender playing for what was the third best defence in the league last year, I feel like that's something that I shouldn't just ignore. So I don't feel like the upside's really there with him. I feel like he's probably up there with Fofana in terms of there's not much upside, but he could get you a few clean sheets. But yeah, I just quite like having them as options on my bench to bring in if I need to, because you never know what happens at the beginning of the season. So I like having those nailed players. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, before we move on to your midfield, do you have a particular plan with wildcarding? You're just seeing how it goes, or do you want a wildcard early? Do you usually wildcard early?
I'm really, really flexible. That's one of my biggest things with FPL. I do plan, but I plan kind of 2, 3, 4 weeks in advance. I know I see people saying, they want to do this in game week 8 or want to do this in game week 10. And I always tend to struggle with that, because I never know exactly what's going to happen in a season. Like, nobody knew West Ham were going to be so good last year. So for me, if everything goes well, I would love to wildcard in roughly game week 8, game week 10, somewhere around there, because I know the fixture swings quite a lot there as well. But then I'm not adverse to wildcarding really late and wildcarding towards halfway through the season. But I have tended to wildcard a little bit earlier, because last year, obviously, Kane and Son just looked like they were on absolute fire, and it's being able to make moves quickly if you want to as well. I've got no set plan. I'm just going to be flexible moving forward and see how it goes, because we also don't know what's going to be going on with COVID and everything at the moment either. So I'm just going to keep it as flexible as possible and hope that my nail players keep it going for as long as possible too.
Yeah, I really want to have a look at this midfield then. So now we spoke to Neil earlier. He's got Fernandes and Salah in there. So I don't think there's much to dwell on there. They're the two sort of obvious premium picks there. It's obvious why you've got them. It's not just because everyone's got them. Everyone's got them for a reason. That's because they were statistically the best players last year. So yeah, having a look at expected goal involvement, Salah, Fernandes, top. I put this picture up earlier in the day as well, and it's just obvious why they're there. But yeah, going back to your team, it's more who's around it as well. So you've gone for what could be a 5-man midfield. So you've got Rafinha and Harrison, and you've also got Smith Rowe in there as well. So let's take all three of them, and obviously, why have you got them? And also, confident with double Leeds midfield?
Do you know what? I am. I really am. And it's one of those things where I was looking at it and thinking, I wanted Rafinha. Rafinha was somebody that came into my team straight away. I thought he was underpriced, if I'm perfectly honest. I thought he was going to be at least 7 million to make people think about it. But I think for 6.5 million, I'm more than happy to have him in my team. And I looked at it then and thought, Harrison's another player that I loved last year. He could haul in a game at times. He could get you a goal and an assist, and it didn't matter about the opposition either, which I really liked about Leeds. You can play them with confidence in a lot of fixtures, and I looked at it and thought, actually, there's apart from that tricky first fixture against Man United away, the fixtures after that aren't looking too bad, and I think that's going to put a lot of people off. And for me, I really like the idea of having those stacks. I like the idea of having Rafinha and Harrison, and Harrison being benched in the first week means that in the second week I can attack that fixture with 2 Leeds players. So I do quite like having both of them, if I'm perfectly honest. The why I've got the potential of having those 5 in midfield is if Smith Rowe starts well and he is nailed and he starts playing every game, then he's a great 5.5 million player to have. But if he doesn't, and it isn't looking like it's going to work, he just drops to the bench and Harrison comes in every week. So I like the idea of having that 5 in midfield. And the 3 up top are going to play every week pretty much anyway. But it's just that almost like safeguarding myself a little bit against if Smith Rowe doesn't actually perform very well. I could go the other way and I could downgrade Harrison and put all my eggs in one basket with Smith Rowe. But I just think at the beginning I like safeguarding myself a little bit.
Okay, yeah, obviously my dog approves. Those who can hear my dog barking.
My dog doesn't. She's asleep next to me.
Conflict with the dogs for the team there. I'm not averse to Rafinha and Harrison early doors because you can get rid of one. And it could be that Harrison is matching Rafinha. It could be that Rafinha is worth that 0.5. It could be that he's not. So you can get rid of one. And I like that. It gives a bit of flexibility there. Smith Rowe's a tricky one, though, because he's a tricky price. So say you're wrong about Smith Rowe as an option. Where'd you go from him? Who's your backup?
Well, the thing with Smith Rowe, I think if he didn't work, I think I would probably downgrade him to Gilmore or Basuma and go down to that 4.5 million midfielder and then reinvest the money somewhere else. Hopefully by the time I have to downgrade Smith Rowe, if that is what happens, it'll be game week 2, game week 3. We'll be more aware of those strikers that have started well. The big thing for me is I would love to look at those Wolves fixtures from game week 3 onwards. Someone like Jimenez, I could downgrade someone like Smith Rowe for a mil. Somehow get that 0.5 million elsewhere, which you think I'd be able to, and then upgrade someone like Tony if he doesn't start well. You could change Antonio out. I know Watkins, his fixtures change a little bit after game week 3, like we were talking about. So all of a sudden, someone like Jimenez might be somebody that looks quite good for me.
And just before we come to those attackers as well, have you got any money in the bank in this? Is this a 100 million team, or is this a?
No, I believe this is 0.5 million in the bank as well.
Okay. Now, is that something you try and do at the start of every season, or you're hoping to do this season? Because I know it can come in handy.
It can, and do you know what? It is really nice when you so I always try and roll a transfer in game week 1, moving into game week 2 if I can, because I think moving into game week 3, when you've got 2 free transfers and 0.5 million in the bank, it starts to look really nice. The only thing I will say is that having that 0.5 million in the bank, you're not doing anything with it. So whereas a lot of people could be chasing price rises, I've got 0.5 million in the bank, literally doing nothing. So it's definitely 2 ways of looking at it. It's just, I always like rolling those transfers and having a bit of money in there because you can just attack the week when you can attack it. So I think it's an option. It's not something I always do, but it's something I like looking at. Okay,
let's go forward lineup. So now a lot of people have got this 3 up top. I've currently got that in my team. I was thinking of 3-5-2. But there's just so many strikers I want or potentially want, and there's such good price points. There's so many. I think there's about 7 or 8 who are between that 6.5 and 8, including Calvert-Lewin. Obviously you've got Tony, Watkins, Antonio. You've got Wilson at Newcastle as well. So you've got an escape route there. So why have you particularly got at the moment in your current draft gone for Watkins, Tony and Antonio? So what is it about those 3?
Yeah, so I mean, Watkins is the one I'm most confident about. The fixtures are lovely to start with. He's got Buendia now. If Grealish stays, which I'm actually expecting him to stay, he's got the people supplying him behind him as well. He had a great season last year, and I don't see why he can't take that next step up this season. I love him. I genuinely, he's a lock. I don't want to say a lock in my team, but he is somebody that I am most likely going to be starting with from game week 1 anyway. Tony is somebody that I've really been on the fence about. Genuinely, like, he had a great season in the Championship, but this isn't the Championship. We've never seen Brentford in the Premier League. We've never seen Tony in the Premier League, apart from about 8 minutes a couple of years ago, I think. Um, I I think I'm starting with him just because he's cheap. He's somebody that I can move up very quickly if I need to. But also his ownership scares me quite a bit, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm not normally this kind of a person where ownership scares me, but with somebody that's had such a good championship season, I feel like it would almost be daft not to go for him to begin with. He was Iheanacho not that long ago, but I worry a little bit about Iheanacho moving forward now. So, yeah, I just feel like Tony is the obvious pick to start with, just to be a little bit safe. And then Antonio, he's that player where if he's fit, I pick him in my team. He's just so effective, isn't he? When he plays for West Ham.
Those two key magic words. If
he's fit, yeah,
and
exactly.
He is wonderful if fit, but is he going to be fit? Just looking at Tony as well. So there's two scenarios here. Tony, he's against Arsenal, game week 1. One or two things is going to happen. He blanks, and his price is going to start to go down. He does well, and his price is going to start to go up. What happens in game week 2? Do you hold? Do you start thinking, at what stage do you think I've had enough of Tony? Or do you know what?
I'm looking at him almost like Pookie last year, and he had that really difficult fixture against Liverpool, didn't he? And yes, he scored in that fixture, but he looked quite handy anyway. And you could see the way Norwich were playing and thinking, actually, they might create chances. They're going to get mauled every game, but they're creating chances. And I want to give myself that game against Arsenal. This is why I've been on the fence, because I've been thinking, in that game against Arsenal, do I just watch that game without owning him and then get him in the next week? But then that's almost like a planned transfer. Or do I just start with him and see what happens after that? And at the moment, I am edging towards starting with him and seeing him in that game. He's going to be in my game week 2 team anyway. You know, I'm going to take the price hit, and because I'm not picking him for that Arsenal game, I'm picking him for the games after. And he's going to be that kind of long-term player, isn't he? Where I own him for quite a few weeks before I make that decision. So I think game week 3 is the earliest, like really the earliest I could move off him. And that's, like I said, for someone like Jimenez, if they look devoid of anything in the Premier League. But even then, 2 weeks is quite a short kind of period. He just strikes me as that player where people are going to get bored of him after 2 weeks. And then he does something that third week, a bit like, was it Wilson when he first came up with Bournemouth? Yeah. He did nothing for 2 weeks and then banged against Newcastle. I think he got a hat-trick. So I feel like he's that kind of a player where starting with him is absolutely fine. But if you want to go against him, that's fine as well, considering that first fixture.
And just finally, before we go, so we've got a bit about your strategy there. We've got those players in, but I'm going to put the fixtures up. This is the first 8 game weeks, so to sort of stress test your team as well. So go back to your team here. Here's the fixtures. So you got Brighton, Liverpool, Manchester United, Leeds, and then you've got Villa and West Ham, Brentford. So and a bit of Arsenal, a couple of bits of Arsenal soon. So let's have a look at those fixtures. So yeah, you can see Brighton atop. So well done there. Liverpool really high up as well. No Watford. Watford have got great fixtures. So they could be a team to target. There's also looking at West Ham as well. So right to get Koufal in, really good fixtures there. What's interesting about Villa, we mentioned that first 3 fixtures absolutely fantastic, and then Villa, it just falls off a cliff really. Not until game week 8 when they play Wolves, and it's game week 4, I guess. You could be looking at Wolves for those investing in Aston Villa. Wolves is a nice drop-off point there as well. And I mean, with Brentford, I'm not even looking at the fixtures so much because it's just such an unknown quantity anyway. But yeah, looking at those fixtures, do you feel happy with your picks and the players so far, or do you start to think, well, hang on a minute, that fixture turns then, and maybe I should do something different? So yeah, what's your thoughts about the fixtures and the players you got?
Yeah, I think I really would like to look at a few Wolves players from game week 4 onwards. I think I've toyed with Eight Nori in my team, but I'm really trying not to give myself headaches as the season starts. Eight Nori could be he could be the next Justin, or he could be the next Vinagra. So I'm not too sure about starting with them. I'm happy to wait on them until game week 4. Watford, I genuinely don't know what they're going to be like in the Premier League, if I'm honest. They got ripped to shreds at times last time they were in there, and Sarr is somebody I've looked at instead of Harrison. I think if he is starting right wing and he is on penalties, then I think he could almost be a better asset than Harrison. But I feel like I know what I'm getting with Harrison, whereas Sarr, there's still a few question marks. So I feel like he's somebody I could move on to again, game week 4 if I need to. It's quite nice that a lot of these fixtures turn in game week 4 because I feel like you're seeing a pattern after 3 game weeks. 2 game weeks isn't enough. I feel like 3 is a good amount. So if you can see those patterns emerge and see which players are going to be playing, and then game week 4 you can attack it, I think that's quite nice. So what I've done really is, it maybe sounds a little bit boring, but it's quite safe. It's just gone for those nail players that I know are most likely going to get me some returns in those first 3 weeks, and then I can maybe change things over a little bit in game week 4.
Okay, the reason I ask you as well is to see how much fixtures influence your decision. But obviously, you're looking at form and that reliability, players that have done well in the past, either for you or you've just seen. Sarr is someone who's in my team at the moment, and he's in that Harrison role because I do think. I might be clouded by that Liverpool game where he did well, but I'd like to see more of that.
I think about that as well.
And Watford have, 10% of the world's strikers at the moment. So we're not quite sure where Sarr's going to fit in, hopefully, in an attacking role there. But just finally, just have a look at your team again. Just go there. I think this is well set up, and it's well set up for pre-season, which I like about this. Thanks so much, Andy, for coming on and revealing your team. And good luck with your game week 1 team.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm sure this team will be exactly the same when game week 1 kicks off.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.